Hi guys, this is my channel about home brewing. If you want to learn more about beer and home brewing, consider becoming a subscriber by hitting that subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss anything when I post a video like this one. With that said, let's go on with today's topics. I'm going to talk about this beer, and this is the 8th part of... no, it's not. It's the 9th part of my series of growing hops in my garden 2018, and we're up to using the hops now. So we're gonna look at brew footage of this beer. We're gonna come back and taste the beer, and of course we're gonna see some harvesting footage, and we're gonna talk about wet hopping and using a hop that you really don't know anything about. So this is brewed with Swedish hop variety called Svalöf S. I'm going to talk about that hop. When I brewed with it and when I bought it, the plant, I didn't know anything about it. More than that it was a Swedish hop variety. And it had some relations to Saaz hops. So, but now I know some more about it. But let's stop rambling and let's see some harvesting and brew footage, and then we'll come back and taste the beer. So we have 3.5 kilos of Pilsner, 400 grams of wheat malt, 250 grams of Munich, 200 grams of Crystal 30 and 120 grams of acid malt. So this is gonna be a wet one. Wet hopped beer. I will using all the hops from this plant. It ain't that much. This is the Svalöf S, and I don't know anything about it other than that it's a Swedish variety. The Maurits who grew there is called Svalöf Maurits 85. So is this just another Maurits, or is it a new hop? Not new, but a different hop from the other one. So I have to cut that down. It's a beautiful weather today, so it's not windy. We had a storm here, but today it's better. Yeah, and the storm had a silly name as usual, but don't remember it. So we can see some starting to just brown up, but I think these are quite good to be picked. I was gonna pick them last weekend, but I didn't feel that they were ready, but they are ready now, so we'll pick them and use them all. But as I don't know anything about them, I have a special strategy for this brew. I want to talk about that later in the video. A lot of hop cones ready to be picked. Beautiful hops. Mashing in at 65 Celsius. Okay, the pump is hooked up and we're circulating. So we will need to find a good flow. I think that's good flow rate there. I'm gonna monitor it. Come back in 50 minutes, give it another stir and take a pH reading. Yeah, still wearing the gloves, still picking the hops. There were actually more on that plant than I suspected. It's about just over 7 liters, 512 grams of hops. This is a wet hop, so maybe divide that by 4, something like that. So like 125 grams maybe. It's not exact, you have to dry it to know, but these are kind of wet, so yeah, maybe 100, maybe 125 grams if they had been dried, that is. But I'm gonna use them all into this beer. Also gonna bitter with some Magnum, if I don't change my mind. I'm gonna do a big hop stand. At least the plan is for now. Do a big hop stand off the flame out. I think I'm gonna take down the temperature to about 65 C. So we're gonna do a bitter addition with Magnum to about maybe 25 IBUs, and I'm gonna steep all of them quite cold, 65 or call it hot, 65 C. We will have some bitterness from them, but not as much if we were going hotter. I don't have any idea on the alpha acid on this one, so I'm gonna play it safe. pH 5.6 at 20 degrees, maybe a little high, so I'm gonna add just under a cap of lactic acid. This is 80% mjölksyra in Swedish. So making room for new beer. If you brew more than you can drink, is the way you have to do it, or give it away. Wasn't anything wrong with it actually, but I had to make room. Almost caught it in time. We're up to a boil. 20 grams of Magnum going in. Start the timer. Okay, hops has been steeping now at like 65°C for 46 minutes. It's time to start the cooling again to get this into the fermenter. Transferring to the fermenter on top of the old yeast cake. The pump. There's the pump. Okay, giving the wort a 1 minute blast of oxygen to help the yeasties. Okay, let's put some pressure on there. I'll go for 2.4 bars. If you saw that bubbling, was the air from the ball. Okay, got a little high there. Got some leaks, but it usually holds up to like 2.4 bars. If I go over, we start to leak. See if I can tighten that up, but I did overdo it a bit. Okay, tighten it up, and now it's holding the pressure nicely. Over 2 bars, like 2.4-ish, 2.3, 2.4-ish. Gonna put some more pressure on it after I get it down to the brew shed and get it into the fridge. The liquid will absorb some, so I'm gonna put some more on. So I'm gonna start it on high pressure. Then it's gonna produce its own pressure, and the fermentation will start almost instantly. That amount of fresh yeast. Okay, the water's in the fridge. I'm gonna, oh, it's actually beer because it's yeast in there. So, okay, so the beer is in the fridge, and attach the temperature probe and insulated it. I'm gonna start this at 18. I think it's a little bit colder actually than 18. Gonna see when that equals out. This says 18, but yeah, it takes a little bit time for that thermometer to equal out after it has been sitting in room temp. So we're gonna wait and see. But yeah, we're gonna start at 18. Let's try to put some pressure on this again. See if we lost some. Yeah, not much. Yeah, we have lost some. I'm setting it to 2 bars. I do prefer the other one if you watch the video, but I have a leak here, so I have to buy a new what you call this in English? So 2.4-ish. Yeah, and pressure is holding good. So I'm gonna attach the Spunding to this and set it to 2.4-ish as well. I'll go and get it. Okay, Spunding valve is ready. For monitor, fill this up with Clean and water. So we're just gonna try to do this one-handed. Some awesome filming as usual. So you put the Spunding valve on the outside. See, just over 2 bars there, and then screw. we turn the knob until you start seeing bubbles down here, and then we just close it again if we want to be on 2, over 2. You could set it to whatever you want. I like to start with a lot of pressure. Now, I'm gonna close it again. See, lost some pressure. We're good. Let's try it again. Yeah. I'm closing it. Still bubbling. Let's close it some more. We're just under 2 now. But this is gonna ferment, like start immediately. It's gonna build its own pressure lately. Gonna come back and see if we have more or less. Still bubbling. I'm gonna just turn it a little. So, something like that. Yeah, bubbling stops. It's okay, so we're all set now. Yeah, there's a lot of cleaning up to do, and I'm gonna take the gravity and show you that. I don't think I will show you the cleaning in this video, it's not that exciting. Okay, so beer is on the way. And as I said, it's around 18-ish. Check the value from the tilt was 7.8 in there, so around 80. Prosit! It's getting dark. We have 10:48. I think that's about spot on. Check my readings, but somewhere 10:47, 10:48. So yeah, good. Okay guys, so there you have some footage. Here's the beers. We're gonna taste the beer, we're gonna go through the recipe, talk about hops, talk about the Svalöf hops and other Swedish varieties, some history which I found out. And also, yeah, talk about wet hopping, using fresh hops and using a hop variety that you really don't know anything about. So let's give this one a nose. Or should we have a look at the appearance first? This one was actually crystal clear, but I lifted up the keg to find out how much I had left in it, because I really wanted to record this video before I kicked the keg, and I kicked up some sediment. But it's still very good looking beer. It's a little bit lighter in reality, so I think that's a better representation of the actual beer. And we had a little head on it, white head, but it's dying off. This was poured from my kegerator in the main house. Okay, let's give it a nose. So it's a little citrusy. This is a lager, by the way. I haven't mentioned that already. A pressure fermented lager using the Fermentosaurus. I have a whole playlist on the Fermentosaurus, if you're interested. Okay, so like I said, a little citrusy maybe. Some other like hints of fruits. Can't really pick a certain like fruit. So this is like when you say tropical fruit, ain't it? Yeah, okay, let's dive in. Cheers, guys. Okay, so has some sweetness. And a very good mouthfeel. Very clean beer, but with complexity. You have some spiciness. This hop is related to Saaz, so and Saaz has like a pepperiness to it, but it ain't really like the Saaz pepper. It's more of a it is like a pepper spiciness, but maybe not like the Saaz way. It's hard to describe, guys. It's very interesting, good beer. It is a lager, but it's very hoppy. We have no like off flavors at all, no sulfur, no nothing of that. There is like I said, like a peppery spiciness and some sweetness. This did ferment out to 10-10, so I think maybe the hops bring something to it like that, but I did add some caramel malts in it. We're gonna go through the recipe in full. Maybe it's like the caramel malts. But it's a very nice brew. It's like very malty and hoppy at the same time, like very balanced beer. Yeah, I'm very pleased with that one. Okay, so let's have a look at the recipe. And you also find the recipe on my Patreon site for guys who want that in written form. But let's run through it. So this was like a 23 liters batch. And if you are brewing this, you have to consider that I'm using wet hops. We're gonna come back to that topic. But if you are dishing now, so I used 3.5 kilos of Pilsner malt. That's about 78%. I used 400 grams of wheat malt. That's about 9%. I give you the percentage as well if you don't like metric. And I used 250 grams of Munich. That's 5.6%. I used 120 grams of acid malt, and that's 2.7%. I also used some light crystal malt, crystal 30, 4.5%. And for hops, I used 20 grams of Magnum, which should have given an IBU of 25 at 60 minutes. After flame out, I chilled down to 65, added all of the Svalöf S hop I had. I had 512 grams of hops. So I did a steeping with all of the wet hops at 65°C for 45 minutes. But if you were to brew this beer with dry hop, you have to like divide that figure with somewhere around 3.5 times to about 4 times maybe. So you have to think about that. So the idea here was that I didn't know any about the alpha acid of these hops. I had 512 grams of it. So my plan was this: I will bitter the beer to the amount I want. So I would use a hop I knew the bitterness of, Magnum, and my Magnum was 11.9% alpha acid. And then I waited till after flame out and added the rest. No, actually I cooled down to 65°C, so I would get as little as possible of the bitterness from the Svalöf S, the wet hop, but still get good extraction of flavors and still keeping it at pasteurizing temperature, because I was gonna hold it there for over 30 minutes. So if you don't know the alpha acid, this is the way to do it. Just bitter it to the amount you want, and after flame out, take the temperature down to 65°C. Yes, I'm gonna put the Fahrenheit also if I haven't already. And then just steep it for like a half hour, up to an hour maybe if you want to. And like I said, if you are using wet hop, you have to use a lot more. When hops dry, yeah, they really drop in weight. So if you want to use 100 gram, use 100 grams dry, use like 350 grams to 400 grams of wet. That's the figure when I have experimented with it this summer. Oh, it's autumn now, but yeah, that's the figure I got for you. So that's the figure I'm going with. Cheers. It really depends on how dry the hops are when you're picking them. Yeast-wise, and this yet again were fermented on an old yeast cake, so I use, and it's not in here, but it's the Saflager W3423, I will put it there, and the Bohemian Lager, so it's an old yeast cake. It's which have been reusing. It's like a long-term experiment I'm doing. And if you follow my channel, you have heard that one before. So when I bought the plant, it didn't say anything else that it was used for brewing beer. But it was Swedish variety, so I wanted to taste it. I'm from Sweden, by the way. Maybe I should have mentioned that. And I live in Sweden, in Stockholm. Not in the city, but outside of the city. But I found this article about the Svalöf S and some other hops. I also have some info on the Maurits hop, which I also brewed. I haven't brewed with that one yet. It's dried and it's in the fridge, so I will come back to that in a later video. But I have brewed with the Kosta and have a video on that. I'm going to put a card up and a link down below so you can go and watch it later. After World War I, there were like a hop shortage because we were importing hops from Germany. After World War I, a project was starting to try to develop hops which could grow under Swedish conditions. So they were refining some hops and trying to get them to work because we have a colder climate than Germany. And this project is long gone now, but they have restored some of the hops from that period. They have found some clones, and yeah, one is the Maurits 85. We also have the Kosta, and this was the Svalöf S. There's also Svalöf E, which I have to get my hands on. So I have 3 different Swedish varieties, but it's a 4th here mentioned. So this hops actually has an alpha acid of 5.3%. And in this article, that's a high alpha acid. If you're comparing it to like Saaz hops, yeah, maybe it is. This should give you tropical fruits, citrusy, and grapes. And if you were to dry hop with it, you could even get some garlic and onions. Onions. But I didn't dry hop with it. Just did a massive amount of flame out. I think actually all of the Swedish varieties, I haven't brewed with the Maurits yet, but it did have like spiciness to it. The Kosta had like a spiciness to it, and this also had like a spiciness to it. So maybe all of them are related in some way. I don't know. Yeah, I do know, because both the Maurits and the Svalöf comes from Saaz, or has Saaz in the roots. Don't know about Kosta. So this one turned out to like a really nice beer. So maybe not like your lawnmower beer, because it is have some richness from the malts and spiciness, complexiness, fruitiness from the hops. So maybe it's more like a summer evening beer. So guys, if you're new to this channel, please consider becoming a subscriber. If you want even more content and yeah, like written recipes, I have this whole like recipe books for all my recipe and beer mail. There's my Patreon page there for you to check out if you want to. And of course, there's all of my back catalog of videos. So cheers guys, and thanks for watching. DrHans out.